Hello and welcome back to Hope NLC. I hope you're excited for today's video. There was a comment about integrating our ballot smart contract with React. So we're going to start on that endeavor. We're going to be working with React, which is a client framework, and then we're going to be using the Ethereum development environment called Hardhat. In addition to that, we're going to be using the Ethereum web client library, Ethers.js. All right, so let's get started. One of the prerequisites for this video is you will need a Metamask wallet. You can just make a test wallet. That's what I did for this video, and that's what we'll be using. All right, so let's go ahead and head over to Visual Studio Code here. And we actually need to start in our terminal. So I'm in our demo folder that we've been using this entire time for building our smart contract. And we're going to start by creating a dApp, a ballot dApp. So decentralized application. So we'll do npx create react app ballot. I've already gone through this once, so I'm going to put ballot 2 dApp. All right, so you can see here it says happy hacking. We've created this ballot 2 dApp, and so in the terminal here I'm going to go ahead and switch to the ballot 2 dApp directory. The other thing I'm going to go ahead and do is open the folder here that the dApp is in. So at the top here you can see that we have our handful of files here, our source files. The next thing we need to do here is install Ethers.js and Hardhat. And so we'll go ahead and head back to our terminal view here. And let me adjust this a little. Head back to our terminal. In order to install Ethers.js and Hardhat, we need to install these things here. So we'll have Ethers Hardhat at nomadic labs / hardhat -waffle space ethereum -waffle space chai at nomadic labs hardhat-ethers, and then go ahead and hit enter. All right, so now that we've installed that, let's go ahead and initialize the Hardhat development environment by typing in npx hardhat. All right, so let's go ahead and create a sample project. You'll notice that there's a few options here, but we're going to go ahead and select basic sample project. Okay, so we have a few options here. We have the create basic sample project, create an advanced sample project, create an advanced sample project that uses TypeScript, and then create an empty hardhat.config.js file. So we're going to go ahead and create a basic sample project, and we're going to use this folder that we're in. I'm going to say oops. So it looks like here that our readme file creates a conflict, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Let's see if that fixes the problem. Trash. All right, and then let's type in npx hardhat. There we go. Create basic sample project. Perfect. All right, so our project has been created. I had already kind of clicked around here in the folder, and I am on hardhat config.js. So let me switch my view here so you can see the whole screen. And what I've read and understood from just the reading I did in order to prepare for this video is that there's an issue with Metamask, and so on the hardhat configuration. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and update this module export section, and we're going to add paths and then artifacts. And we want the artifacts to be in the and then artifacts And then our goal here is to put the artifacts in the source folder. And then after we've done that, we're going to go ahead and update this section to include a chain ID of 1337. And so let's go ahead and type in networks. And then hardhat chain ID. And I think that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. All right. And so when we created this initial file, you'll notice that the contracts here, there's a contract just automatically generated and built into the application. This is kind of like a hello world thing here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and delete this contract from our folder, our contracts folder. And then I'm going to move a copy of the ballot contract that we created into this folder. Okay, so you can see the ballot contract is now here. So this is the contract that we've been writing and we've written together over the last handful of videos. All right, so now we're ready for the next step in building our application here. So if you recall, when we were using the Remix IDE, the first thing that we had to do after we wrote our smart contract is we had to compile it. And so we're essentially following the same order of operations as we were following in the Remix IDE. So we're going to go ahead and type in npx hardhat compile. Okay, so let's look at our folders here. Looks like we've compiled our Solidity file. And if we go into our source file here, we should see our build info and that we have 2 JSON files here. All right, so we've compiled our smart contract, and the next thing, if you recall, is we need to deploy our smart contract. Well, if you remember in the Solidity, in the Remix IDE, we first compiled and then we deployed. But when we deployed, we had a set of addresses to select from. So what we're going to do is actually use a hardhat node to generate a handful of addresses and private keys that are going to represent the different accounts. Now these are fake, these aren't real. The ether in these accounts is just for testing and demo purposes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and type in here npx hardhat node, and a number of accounts were created here. I'm only showing the first one in the terminal here, and it shows that it has 10,000 ETH in it. So these are, there's this warning here, these accounts and their private keys are publicly known. Any funds sent to them on the mainnet or any other live network will be lost. So this is, again, just for testing purposes. So just like in the Remix IDE, we now have a list of addresses that we can work with and deploy with. The other thing you'll notice over here in the top right area of the terminal is that changed to node. All right, so let's go back to our top view here so we can see our file tree. All right, so the next step is we want to, now that we have this node running here, we want to deploy this smart contract to this local network using the addresses in that node. The thing that's helpful for me is to think about it through the Remix IDE. So we started with writing our smart contract, and then what we did here to simulate is we compiled through hardhat, right? And then after that, we initiated a node which generated a bunch of addresses with a bunch of fake ETH. So then we can now deploy the smart contract. So it's the same process as we went through on the Remix IDE. But if you recall, in the Remix IDE, we actually had to specify our proposals before we were able to deploy that smart contract. And so we need to kind of understand how to do that here. And so if you look in the scripts folder, you'll see the sample script. And so this was generated with that greeter smart contract. So we're not actually going to use what's here exactly. We're going to make some modifications. And let's go ahead and start, just so that way it's sort of easy for us to remember. Let's rename this sample script to deploy. And then let's go ahead and change the way that we're going to deploy this. And so rather than calling it greeter, which is what was generated for us, I'm going to call it ballot. And then I'm going to, again, also call this ballot. I can type. So I just updated everything there. I'm just kind of making sure that I did this right. And so next, you'll notice here this ballot.deploy. So it's pulling the smart contract and it's going to deploy it, but it's going to pass this initial hello hardhat. And so if we were to deploy our ballot smart contract right now, we would have an error because it needs a proposal. So if you recall, it needs to be in the format that we had made before. And so I am going to copy and paste the conversion that we made of proposal A, B, and C into this into these parentheses so that it properly deploys the smart contract. It is quite literally the exact same format as we had used in the Remix IDE. And so again, this is proposal A, B, and C, and then we're gonna get a note here in the console that it was deployed at this address. So let's go ahead and switch over to our terminal and let's deploy this smart contract to our local host network. So we're going to type in npx hardhat run scripts deploy.js network localhost. All right, it looks like I need to update my version of Node.js, so hopefully this works okay. All right, so the ballot is deployed to this address. So this address here is what will be used to speak to our client application. So if you recall, we had created the hardhat node, which had a number of addresses and private keys. And so we're going to actually take this first address and private key, import this into Metamask, so then we can interact with the client. So go ahead and copy the private key and import that into a new Metamask account. And so, so basically what you need to do is open up your wallet and there's a little import button, and then you will import this account with this private key and head over to Metamask. And in Metamask, you will connect to the localhost, and then you will import this account here by clicking on this circle here. And then there's a button that says import account. You'll click import account, and then you'll copy and paste that key, that private key, into the import account field. And then you'll be all set. So you can see I've added account 4 here, and I have played with some of the transactions here. So there's a little bit, tiny bit less ETH than 10,000. Again, this is all fake, and these are public. So none of this is real. So let's go ahead and go back to our Visual Studio view. Go ahead and head down to the, I believe this is, yeah, under the source folder here, and you'll notice this JS file called app.js, and this is where we are going to build our user interface to begin working with our smart contract. And you'll notice there's a handful of things here that we don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these things here, and then we don't need the logo for React, so I'm going to delete that. And now we're going to import the things we need in order to build this application. So we're going to import All right, and then let's go ahead and import our smart contract. So ballot from, this is from our artifacts folder. And then we need to update with the contract address that we deployed our smart contract to. So we'll call this ballot address. And this is our smart contract. So we'll have to go back to our terminal and view that where it was deployed. There we go. So I'm going to copy this over. And let's go back to our other view here. Then we will paste this in. So now in this next part, we're going to go ahead and add a chunk of code here in order to connect to our Metamask wallet that we created. All right, and then next we're going to go ahead and add a handful of placeholders here, so that way when we come back to this, we will be ready to go for the next video. Actually, let's go ahead and start the application. So if we go back into our terminal, we can go ahead and type in npm start, and it looks like the local host is launching here. And we have some sort of error. Somehow, at some point, I accidentally typed an S instead of an A. All right, so you can see a blank application here. So let's go ahead and start doing a little bit of work here. And let's name this our voting application. Go, and then let's pull in our contract address. Oops. Let's do H3 contract address. And if I remember right, we name that ballot address. All right, so that's it for today. So you can see now that we have our application started. We started putting in some of the pieces to our UI and some of the pieces that we need in order to interface with Metamask, and then a little skeleton here to start to work on our structure and interactions with our smart contract. You can also see here that our smart contract address. And we will continue to work on this a little bit at a time over time, as well as other smart contracts. And so thank you again for watching, and I look forward to continuing our journey of learning Solidity and smart contracts together. Thanks. Have a great one.